So welcome, Victor, to the Naked Eye podcast. It's really nice to have you today. I'm excited to talk a little bit about what you've been getting into and some exciting things about your documentary as well. So welcome to the show. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit to our listeners?
Sure, yes. Thanks for having me, by the way, Nathan. My name is Victor Mifsud. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I'm about 42, almost 42 next month. And I was born with a condition called Retinitis Pigmentosa. I kind of found out when I was 9. And since then, I've been on a mission to see what I can do about it. So last year, I finished a documentary film called My Neuroplastic Adventure, where we discover different healing modalities from modern science to ancient wisdom on how to heal the body, mind, and soul, and how the eyesight fits into our being and how it's all kind of connected. So pretty excited about the film. It's soon to be released. Actually, as of tomorrow, it's released and available on iTunes for all you guys to check out. It was a big journey in itself, filming the documentary too. So I'm pretty proud of it, and I'd like people to see it and check it out, because it's a bit of a roadmap on like going through this type of dealing with a certain condition or just anything from trauma or mental health issues to see how one can kind of get back on track and things they can do aside from going to a doctor and getting these prescription meds. And the body's intelligent. If you give it the right environment, it can in fact heal. So
yeah, it was really exciting to watch the journey. I was lucky enough to get to show your film at one of our previous holistic vision conferences to a group of vision teachers from around the world. And we're obviously, everybody was really on board with the whole notion of neuroplasticity, and then when it was all centered around retinitis pigmentosa and your journey with your eyes, and really how can we work with the vision as well. I mean, everybody was loving it so much, and we had a nice discussion afterwards of people's feedback and everything. And so really excited to see that it's getting out there more, and more eyeballs are going to see it. And having just, put together a documentary and hopefully releasing our vision documentary in a couple months, definitely hats off to you in terms of all the work that you put into it, and traveling around all over Canada and all over the place. And really, it was just really well done. Yeah. Great job on that.
Oh yeah. Thank you. It's, I'm sure you get that feeling of sharing the story and uncovering the potential of how the eyes can actually really, really heal. I mean, that's how you and I think, got on in that sense. And, what I like to talk about too is like, the body is so intelligent. If given the right stimulus and situation, it can heal. And a lot of people think, and that's what I usually say, is like, we were often taught that your eyes are stuck the way they are. You're given these glasses and you're just set, and that's it. And it's gonna get worse. Like, how often do you ever hear like, oh, my vision got better, I can see? Like, this seems like an old wives' tale, or like it never happens to anybody, but it does. I mean, the work that you do, you've seen a lot of people recover from it and improve. And same thing with me. My vision's improved quite a bit. I'm still working on some aspects of my retinitis pigmentosa, because it's a bit of a bigger issue or a bigger problem. I'm not sure how to word that one, but
say, like, with the vision problems, people think that a lot of people think that all of them are untouchable. There's nothing we can do about even the basic blurry vision or refractive error, myopia, presbyopia. But what I was going to say is, when you get into retinitis pigmentosa, or then we're in kind of like the more, eye disease category, or more kind of serious zone, where that that mindset is even more extreme. Like, oh, there's definitely nothing I can do about that. Or that's kind of like the conventional, diagnosis a lot of times is just like, it's incurable, right? There's like not a whole ton we can do. So like, what were you told, like when you were before you kind of got, exploring this alternative, route, I'm sure you were maybe given some more traditional, diagnoses?
Well, I remember being 9, being first diagnosed because I was, complaining to my mother that it was just difficult to see at night. And then my mom's like, "How can you see at night? It's dark." I'm like, "No, this is just something else." I'm like tripping over things, and
Mm-hmm.
so we went to the hospital, and then I was diagnosed with it. And at 9 years old, being told that I have this condition called retinitis pigmentosa, like it just the way it even sounded was like, I don't know what the hell that means.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty weird. And they were pretty much like, there's nothing you can do about it. Like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that doctor in that white coat saying there's nothing you can do about it kind of like stamps this thing on you. Like, I'm just going to sit there, twiddle my thumbs, and either wait for myself to go fully blind, or wait for them to be like, "Oh, we found a cure for you, and there you go." So, you know, so then time happened, and things kind of got worse, and life didn't go as I wanted it to, and things just, and then you just get to a point where you realize like it's either like a sink or swim, where I have to take take it into my own hands, and I'm ultimately responsible for my own healing. So then, you just start to uncover all this information that, the brain is now plastic and the brain can change. So if that's the case, and if we see with our brains, not with our eyes, so that means our eyes are plastic as well, and they can change. So like, okay, so it's just very empowering. I mean, and this is going on standing on the shoulders of these other giants, like the Bates method and the Feldenkrais method. We had this gentleman in our film, David Weber, who was featured in Dr. Norman Deutsch's book, The Brain's Way of Healing. And he had a really, really bad case of uveitis, and he used the Feldenkrais techniques to regain a lot of his vision. And again, very powerful. He did unfortunately pass away last year from cancer, but he made a lot of headway in terms of repairing his vision. And he's got a very fascinating story. But yeah, it's totally possible. And I'm just here to, inspire people that don't give up. If they were given some diagnosis from some doctor who didn't know anything, that don't take their word for it. The world is a big place. There's a lot of information out there. You just, look and uncover, and there's a lot of magic in a lot of books, and, now podcasts, and, if you seek it, you shall find it.
And it's so awesome that you're facilitating that for people. You're making it easier for people to access that information, because maybe when you first find out about something and that maybe the conventional explanation isn't telling you the whole story, but you're like, I don't have the energy or the time to go on my own neuroplastic adventure. They can just watch yours and see all the things that you found and discovered, and, successes and challenges and things like that. So I would definitely I think it'd be awesome to just get like a little sense of maybe like some of your favorite discoveries or things that you experienced that were like, actually had a sort of a tangible effect for you of like, wow, this, I'm so glad I had stumbled upon this, or any kind of like big aha moments along the way that maybe could help somebody else in a similar place.
Well, I would most definitely say that, our subconscious trauma, which most of us have, whether it's a big T trauma or a little T trauma, have an effect on our well-being and our vision itself. There's a certain type of and this is kind of first brought to my attention in Lieberman's book, Take Off Your Glasses and See. There's certain things that we were traumatized by that might have been set at a distance that the body subconsciously or unconsciously doesn't want to see. So it ends up like blurring it out. So if you work with a therapist or just do some self inner healing, again, you can change your vision. So there's that. That's been a big game changer for me. The power of light alone is probably the biggest game changer. What light and colors mean, and how color and light deficient we actually are. I mean, it's a big red light shining in my face, which is a lot of us are actually red light deficient because we live an indoor life existence under these screens that are completely unbalanced, which throws off our spectrum. So, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Is a big thing that I say to people. So those are big takeaways, and a lot of things in the quantum field are seemingly invisible, but they have a big impact on how we can heal. So it's very difficult to get well in the same environment that you got sick in. And once you realize what environment means, an inner world environment and an outer world environment, you can make these changes, and then you see magic happening. So
that's cool. Yeah, I mean, that's so cool. Of just like, I can literally change my environment by changing my light bulbs, changing the color scheme, and all this stuff. And that's fascinating, though. It's that light is this quote invisible thing, but we also call it like the visible light spectrum, like what humans can see and perceives, and literally everything we're experiencing is light. It's brought to us by light. And so it is this intangible, invisible thing, but it's all around us, and it's everything we see. And that's the eye organ is the organ of light. That's why we have the eyes, to receive the light into the body and send the chemicals and the influences throughout the body and regulate the metabolism and the endocrine system and everything. So yeah, it's a topic that I'm excited to be continuing to explore and learn more of. And you were talking about the neuroplasticity of the brain's ability to change, and the eyes being extensions of the brain. Maybe we need some term like that, like optoplasticity or oculoplasticity or something like that. Because I had the same realization. It's like, okay, I'm seeing all these scientists and researchers talking about neuroplasticity and the brain's ability to change, but then it's like it stops at the eyes. It's like, oh, well, you can't go into that territory. It's only the brain, not the eyes. And it's like, wait, why can't we break down that barrier and include it all in the process of healing?
Well, like recently, the only person of a doctor stature that I started to hear actually talk about that beyond myself, and I'm not a doctor, but it was Dr. Andrew Huberman. He was basically saying on the Rogan podcast that your eyes are like your brain's kind of squeezed out to the eyes are basically the visible part of your brain, like interfaced out here. So again, if there's that connection that the brain can change, the eyes can change too. And again, it's a very, very light sensitive membrane or organ. And we often think that a light is either on or off. But once you look at the spectrum of light with the visible and invisible, there's so much there that we need at certain times of day, from morning sunrise to noon to night, to like dusk till night. And that circadian clock also needs to be timed. And we live such an indoor life existence under these junk lights and our screens that are completely throwing off this spectrum. Essentially it's jet lagging us. So for example, if you wake up first thing in the morning and you look at your phone, which is on like full blue bright, you're essentially tricking your eye clock into thinking that it's noon in the noon in the equator. So and for thousands of years, our ancestors were waking up with the sun and going to bed with when the sun was going down, and the only spectrum of light that was available was fire. But fire is red and infrared, which doesn't trigger the melanopsin receptor, which is responsible for the release of melatonin.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's super fascinating.
Yeah, and it's like what I've been reading about this stuff with, the discovery of melanopsin and these, non-optical visual pathways. I mean, it's only been in the past 20 years, and like still so much unknown about or still learning about these things. And I never used to look at light the way I look at it now. I mean, I just would live my life and just have no awareness of the type of light that was coming into my eyes, whether it was a screen or a light bulb or natural light, no differentiation at all. It was all just under the same category, light. And now it is this huge spectrum, and it's just like, okay, I'm so much more cognizant of what I'm letting into my eyes, and it's not something that I ever used to think about. And I do think it has led to some big improvements and changes in my, not just in my eye health and my eyesight, but really in just like you're talking about, my circadian rhythms, my sleep cycles, my overall health in general. So, we're talking about the eyes a lot here, but really I want people to think about how this can really expand beyond that and affect other parts of the body too.
Of course, yeah, it goes beyond the eyes, and again with these invisible spectrums that have an effect on us too. One of the big things that is affecting us in this world that I discuss in my film as well is the magnetism element of health, which now a lot of that's getting disrupted because of new technology. Like for example, and there's been a lot of studies with this, is that your Wi-Fi router, your pineal gland picks up your Wi-Fi router as a light signal. Mm-hmm. So if your Wi-Fi router is on still at night, it's perceiving it as a light signal, thus still suppressing the amount of melatonin that's supposed to properly get released. Not to mention like calcium channel dysregulation, and there's just so much to us now being bombarded with 3G, 4G, and now 5G signals. Mm-hmm. And this is another major health disaster that I believe is coming our way. And the problem is, again, we can't see it.
Right.
So we think that just because we can't see it, it's not affecting us. But there's a lot of people who have autoimmune issues who are, in fact, canaries in the coal mine. And in my documentary, I've always been quite electrosensitive. Now, I used to sleep with my cell phone under my bed, like back in the day. I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And I used to keep my phone in my pocket. Again, I didn't know any better. And I began, as I got a bit older, I began really sensitive to like feeling like unwell and almost like sensing certain signals around me where I just felt like, having like cognitive issues around it. And so I worked with Professor Magda Havis. She's probably one of the leading EMF experts. She's based out of Trent University. And I went to her lab and we did a live blood analysis. Yeah. And you can basically show if somebody's been overexposed to EMF, because the blood ends up being kind of coagulated and like messy looking. But then we can also use electromagnetic fields towards our benefit. For example, that's when we walk barefoot, we are actually grounded to the earth, and we absorb the earth's human resonance, so that reduces inflammation and kind of gets the cells kind of back in line. So we can do that with technology as well, from PEMF technology. So kind of like has a more resonant electrical field. And after 30 minutes on it, you can see in the documentary, like my blood is back to this regular flowing formation. So yeah, most people don't even know that they're being overexposed to EMF. And it can produce a lot of extreme health issues. So again, we can't see it, but it's most definitely there. So it's something I do like to discuss a lot. And I think, going blind taught me how to see the invisible, really. And that these invisible factors are usually quantum that have a profound effect on our health.
Yeah. I that just resonates with me so much because just on a personal level of like going through different phases in my life of belief and non-belief and all kinds of different things, and being very materialistic and being more esoteric, kind of, ebbing and flowing of like, there was a time in my life where I was very hard and fast on the whole idea of, if I can't see it, it doesn't exist, like really putting all of it on my senses. If I can't physically sense it or see it or smell it or taste it or hear it or experience it, then it must not be there.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple times today you've mentioned that, of like, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. I mean, that echoes in my mind of just like me overcoming that mindset of that limited kind of view of things, and opening up to things that go beyond what my senses can experience, and really knowing that there's a lot more out there that I can't see or hear or smell or taste or experience. And it's exciting to think about that and see what kind of implications can come from that. And so that's a really good way of looking at it.
I think it's an ego thing too. It's like an unintentional ego thing. Like, I can't see it, so it's not bothering me. Out of sight, out of mind. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that can only take you so far. But if there was a radioactive leak in a plant that was close by, you're not going to see it, but you're going to get affected by it.
Right. Yeah.
The thing is, with the cell phones and the Wi-Fi, it's not an instant, like you're on the phone once and then you get brain cancer.
Right.
And the immune system of people is such on such a spectrum that some people are more robust where they can tolerate it more, but that's still like chipping away at the system. And with the increase of EMF and exposure, it's and now also kids starting at such a younger age.
Yeah.
When we were kids, like, this wasn't around. Now you see like 5-10-year-olds glued to the device, throwing off their circadian rhythm and blasting themselves with EMF day and night. I mean, we're going to see drastic issues of vision issues, infertility, cognitive decline, with all of these, seemingly invisible things from light and EMF have increased health issues in kids. I mean, it's already known that, the younger generations that us weren't even expected to live as long as as the older generations, just because of what they're dealing with. So
yeah,
and I think it's important to educate people about this, and to practice safe tech. I mean, I love my phone. I'm not saying to be like, but there's ways to practice safe technology. Blue blocking glasses to protect your circadian rhythm. There's apps on the phone. There's apps on the computer like Flux and Iris to help protect your eyes.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say earlier. You were kind of given that example of waking up in the morning, looking at the phone with the blue light, and it's like, one simple change that I've done is I just leave my night shift mode on my phone 24/7. It's called night shift, but I don't wait until the night to put it on. I just don't have the blue light coming out of my phone ever as much. And yeah, like one little step, like how easy is that to make a little different, a little change to make a really big difference in the long run. And yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, you and I are both on the computer right now. I'm about to teach several more vision lessons after this, and I have to be on the screen all day for work, but I've got my Iris installed, and I'm balancing in between my lessons. I go out and I stand in the sun. I close my eyes. I take in the natural light to counteract the artificial light, and just find that balance. And it's almost not so much just the screens itself as it is like how overrun we get by them. It's our relationship to them, right? So if you're just only looking at the screen for hours, then yeah, that is going to really cause some damage. But if you are finding ways to change your habits and take breaks, look away, balance your 2D vision with your 3D vision, artificial light with natural light, you really can manage it in a lot better way, and it's not really causing as much of those negative side effects. But yeah, I think it's so smart for people to be taking simple little precautions to protect themselves from these things that we really don't know the long-term effects of. We're starting to learn more and more about, but I don't really want to be the guinea pig.
Right. Not to mention, there's a lot of studies showing that the color blue and the high white brightness and the dings from all these, apps that we have are hijacking our dopamine. And, dopamine is created first thing in the morning with sunrise, those light signals via the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and if we're always on the phone, we're just burning through our dopamine. And then, every time we want to get a hit, we're just go on the computer to get this fix. But it seems like it's a potential snowball for a mental health disaster too. So again, just awareness is key, and just simple answer is get outside, just connect yourself to nature, walk barefoot and get the spectrums of light. So it's a pretty simple answer. And in terms of ultimate form of healing thyself, we live very disconnected lives, and technology is great, but everything has a cost, I think.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, just kind of brainstorming of like, I know there is a genetic and hereditary component, but just in terms of thinking even functionally, I know that in my experience, looking at screens sometimes, takes me into a more kind of tunnel vision mode where like the periphery gets tuned out, or just, people just lose track of their surroundings. And I wonder if, there's any connection there with overexposure to screens, or, like encouraging more of that, hyper central kind of thing versus the peripheral awareness. But for, we didn't fully explain this at the beginning, but for maybe if people aren't aware of retinitis pigmentosa, that is sort of the primary effect a lot of people notice, is that the loss of periphery and kind of leading into the central there. So is there anything you want to share about that, of like, any kind of strategies in regards to like playing with periphery or central, or just what that's been like for you?
Well, for most of my life, I'm just running on central vision. Like I pretty much have had tunnel vision my whole life. And one of the first symptoms of retinitis pigmentosa for me is, there's different forms of retinitis pigmentosa, is the night vision issue, but the other one that follows is extreme tunnel vision. So I've been playing with a lot of certain exercises to really have this open focus to stimulate the cones and rods. Was it the cones or the rods that are responsible? I always mix those up.
Oh yeah, the rods are in the periphery.
The rods, thanks. So to get those up and running, and I think there's to say what you were saying, there's a big that expression, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah,
it is huge. And again, if everyone's looking at these screens and living in these tunnel vision lives, like my vision is perfect for watching. Like if I sit here, I can see the screen. That's why people ask, like, oh, if you're blind, how do you shoot with your camera? How do you take pictures? And like, my vision is actually just strictly built for that, because like what I see is like looking through the lens of a camera all the time. Everything's always, and I don't see anything on the side. So, in a way, it's allowed this preternatural kind of like, fix and frame certain things all the time. But I mean, it's cool in some way, but it's not in others, because I would love to have this full, view, which I'm working on as well with, there's a lot of interesting vision treatments coming down the line. So, and I know I will get it back. So I'm working pretty hard on that. So
Nice. And one of the things that you've shared with me in the past and even today before we started was just your inquiry into this whole peptide topic, and that's still fairly new to me. So would you want to briefly just kind of overview kind of what you've been looking into with that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the peptides are now getting a lot of traction in the health optimization community for people with autoimmune issues, stubborn problems. That these peptides are pretty much signaling molecules. I mean, insulin is a famous peptide. Your thyroid gland is a peptide generator. So these peptides are just pretty much like keys that if the body is deficient in peptides, there's certain ones to tackle certain areas like thymus gland, brain. There's retinal peptides that exist now, and there's a lot of studies from Russia of what they're doing that has some pretty interesting data showing that they can drastically reverse some stubborn vision conditions, including retinitis pigmentosa and Stargardt's. I'm not saying it's you inject it once and it's a sudden change. Obviously, if the issue took some time to occur, it might take a bit of time to actually reverse. But these peptides, from my understanding, act like precursors to stem cells, because our body is always creating stem cells. So these peptides act like signaling molecules to release the body's natural stem cells. So, and if every cell is supposed to function a certain way, whether it's deficient in some way, it needs this kind of energy and mitochondrial boost. There's so many different types of peptides that can create this Goldilocks environment for the cells to do their thing. I'm working with a few top doctors right now to see if it can make a dent in my vision issue, and there's some promising things coming down the line. So there's still a lot more that I am trying, but right now I'm laying a lot of foundational stuff, and peptides are pretty interesting. So I definitely the future of medicine.
Yeah, seems like a burgeoning topic of a lot, a lot of potential promising things there.
Yeah, and it's not like a medication or pharmaceutical. It's just something the body naturally creates. So they have a very very low side effect profile, which from pharmaceutical medications, it's kind of the opposite. There's always like side effect here, side effect there. So it's just a really interesting time to see what's going on in terms of the future of well-being. And I think we need it right now because there's a lot of people that aren't feeling that great, and there's a lot of like mysterious conditions that we're trying to fix and help people with. I know you and I both do kind of consulting for people and try to help people out. So, I'd highly recommend, if you have any questions, you want to have any questions about peptides, you can reach out to me and I can see what I can do to help you or guide you in the right direction. So,
yeah. And I was actually just going to ask, if people want to learn a little bit more about you, or learning more about your film, My Neuroplastic Adventure, or about some of your offerings and stuff. How can people find that out?
You can find me on. I'm quite active on Instagram. I'm at Blind Biohacker, and I can be found there. I have my my website called selfoptimize.io as well, and the documentary is now on iTunes. So it's called My Neuroplastic Adventure, and you guys can check it out there. And if you guys have any questions or want to reach out to me, like I said, I'm quite active on those platforms, and you can reach out to me there if you guys have any questions. So thanks for having me on, and it's just always a pleasure talking with you. And it'd be great to work with you in the future. And I think, like I was telling you before, the vision health is still very under the radar, and a lot of people need to really learn how to take care of your eyes. Because if you ask most people which sense they would not want to lose, what do people usually say? It's usually the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and then it's like the follow-up question, you know, it's like, okay, well, what are you doing to preserve them? And it's like, well, I don't know.
Right.
So yeah, we can really get people thinking that they have more power on that than they think maybe. And there's a lot, kind of like your experience, you know, you got this diagnosis, there's nothing you can do. You felt powerless, and until you realize that you did have the power and you had the responsibility actually to take action and learn, and it wasn't all handed to you on a silver platter. You had to go out there and really do your own research, and it's maybe not easy at first, but it's really, really empowering and extremely enlightening when you really start to just see all the different pieces of the puzzle coming together. And it's an ongoing journey. That's what I loved about your film, is like you made so many discoveries along the way, and met so many amazing people. And at the end of it, it was still like, you know, this has almost opened up more doors for me, just to kind of keep exploring. And you sort of hinted at, you know, the possibility even of maybe a little bit of a sequel or a part two, kind of continuing the journey. And
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely encourage people to check out the film. It's a really good watch, and it had people, you know, tugging at people's heartstrings along the way as well. So like I said, you did a really good job, and wish you could have been there, you know, to see everybody's reaction and do a little Q&A, but yeah,
I felt it.
yeah. I was in contact with you during, and I feel like some of the topics we brought up today would definitely be, we're kind of scratching the surface, and we would definitely love to have you on again at some point to go a little deeper. And yeah, I've wanted to have you on for a little while and have a chance to sit down and chat with you. So really glad we got a chance to do that today.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to your documentary as well, and the conference that you got going on in October and in the future. And I'd love to, once this COVID stuff is over and done with, hopefully we can meet in the flesh at a conference and then connect soon. So love to talk there too. So anyway, it's a pleasure having me on here. So thank you.
Awesome, Victor. Yeah, appreciate you coming on for me today.
Thank you. All right. Have a good day.
Thanks.